Jaitley and the tax department today revealing crucial details on tax collections and suspected undisclosed income after demonetization. Let's quickly take a look at the headline figures that have been released today. Right on the top, since demonetization, the taxman has identified around 18 lakh people with total deposits of around 3 lakh crore rupees for a detailed study. At number 2, of these deposits that the taxman is going to look into, 1.72 lakh crore has been marked high risk by the department. The third key figure revealed by the government is on the undisclosed income identified so far. The figure stands at 16,400 crores. Apart from this, the other highlight is the increase in the number of taxpayers, which has gone up by about 91 lakhs after demonetization. On the tax collection front, though, there has been a growth of 17%, which means extra tax collection has remained comparable to what we've seen in the previous years. Let's hear out Finance Minister Arun Jaitley and CBDT Chief Sushil Chandra on the government's efforts to push forward with Operation Clean Money.
If you ask me about 6 months after demonetization as to what are the 3 big features, first, that there is an increased movement towards digitization. Second, the number of assessees and the quantum of tax received has gone up. And third, there is a huge fear of dealing in cash.
Persons are on the high risk category, and the amount which is involved into this high risk category is 1.72 lakh crore. The amount at risk may be little less than that, but they are the high risk cases, and if they have not submitted their responses, then they will have to face the action of the department. And other cases we have categorized in the middle risk cases, the low risk cases, and very low risk cases. We would pursue those cases that they should come forward to file their returns. If they will not file their return, then again these cases will also be pushed to high risk categories, and again they will be subjected to enforcement action of the department. So that is our strategy, that the person should be persuaded to come clean, and voluntarily they should come to our department.
Well, that's the government on Operation Clean Money. For quick reaction now, joining us is corporate lawyer H.P. Ranina, Rahul Garg, partner tax and regulatory at PwC, and of course Ajit Ranade still with us. Mr. Ranina, let me start by asking you what you make of these numbers. The CBDT chief there in that exclusive conversation telling us that 1 lakh high-risk assessees have been identified, and they could be sitting on amounts as high as 1.72 lakh crores. So the impact of the demonetization exercise, if one were to judge by what we've heard from the government today, will only be felt in the medium to the long term. In the immediate term, the numbers don't look particularly impressive.
Shirin, the important point is that the scheme was over on 31st of March. Now those who have not declared, they have made a very foolish mistake, that they will now be liable to pay tax at the rate of 60%, 60. The reason is that there is a section 115BE, 115BE, which says that for this type of money which is unexplained, the 60% flat rate of tax, not even the initial exemption. Plus there will be a penalty. So if the government is keen, and I think under Mr. Sushil Chandra definitely will move, the matter will be such that they will be able to recover almost the entire amount of this 1,72,000 crores, because this is all unexplained income. And therefore it's a huge number for the government. And I would like to compliment the CBDT chairman for the efforts he has put in this behalf, and for increasing the number of taxpayers.
Rahul Garg, as we've been pointing out, that this is a massive exercise in behavioral change. The tax department is hoping to improve the tax base. They're trying to do that by using and leveraging technology. They're also trying to bring in transparency and removing human discretion through this online portal. What do you believe will be the implications, and also the point that Mr. Ranina made there on the CBDT really going after this amount aggressively? The CBDT chief telling us that prosecution cases just over the past year are up to 1,200 versus 500 last year. What do you make of the numbers that the government has put out today?
I think clearly the numbers are impressive, and as you see today, the numbers are of the investigation done so far. And as was mentioned in the release also, that there is more than enough data flowing from the other sources. And note that the GST is going to come in soon, and that would also throw up the data of very different kind. And analytics of all this data, to my mind, would need to be done in a methodical manner, which would lead to much more detection of the high-risk cases than we see them today. And therefore, an investigative approach, which is very clearly seen in the release today, that is centralized monitoring for segment investigation. This is the first time I see that there is an attempt made where the likelihood of people doing the similar activities, getting the similar tax treatment and uniform treatment is going to happen. Else you were left to the each individual field offices as to how a particular case of a jeweler or a real estate builder or a leasing company should be treated. And therefore, to my mind, the whole approach of standardizing this and to some extent making and guiding people even in the field offices to say that how these should be treated, what should be the outcome, this would become much more effective outcome-based investigative approach.
You're absolutely right. You know, the segmentation of high risk, medium risk, low risk and very low risk been put forward by the CBDT today. Ajit Ranade, you know, what does this mean now as far as the economy is concerned, as far as the FIS specifically is concerned? Do you share the kind of confidence that we just heard both from Mr. Raneena as well as Rahul Garg?
Yeah, first of all, Shireen, I don't know why you said these numbers are not impressive. I think they're very impressive. If you added almost 1 crore...
I said in the... I want to interrupt you because I said in the immediate term, because a lot of this is actually still going to go through the investigation process and so on and so forth. But in the medium to long term, it's a very different story. So please don't get me wrong.
Okay, yes. Because I think if they've added 91 lakhs, almost 1 crore new potential new taxpayers on a base of 4 crores, that's a 25% jump. That's huge. Secondly, as Mr. Raneena said, if 1.7 lakh crores has been identified as potentially the high-risk guys and who are going to pay 60% penalty on that, that will represent a 20% addition to the current direct tax collections. That is huge in 1 year. And if your gross tax collections are going up by 17%, far in excess of GDP growth, that is, you know, pretty impressive. So I think if we are slowly moving towards greater tax compliance, and I don't know if this was a magic bullet, you had to use demonetization to unleash all this stuff, because unlock all this stuff, because I don't know if we could have done it without demonetization, but certainly if this is the benefit, this is a long-term benefit to the economy and the whole compliance culture. Because as you know, India's tax to GDP ratio and especially direct tax to GDP ratio is the lowest in the world. It's lowest among the G20 countries. And within that also the skew of indirect to direct taxes is also among the worst, and GST is going to be an indirect tax. So all this requires greater contribution of direct taxes, and all this effort I think is very laudable, very laudable.
Oh, absolutely. And if it improves compliance, it increases the tax base, I think this country could look very, very different. And we do hope that the numbers that the CBDT chief has spoken to us about, the 1.72 lakh crore rupees, which falls under the high-risk category, we will see the government mop up at least a large sum of that. But Ajit Ranade, Rahul Garg, HP Raneena, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18.